Did the Germans bring Jew hatred into Belgium, or do you think it existed there as a result of the church? Or did they propagandize the people politically somehow?
No, in other words, no matter what country in Europe you were living in, there was a total awareness from the German occupation that you didn't socialize with the Jews because they were hunting the Jews throughout Europe. You know, if they killed 6 million Jews, they had to hunt all of them in Europe, not just one country. So no matter where they were, there was that propaganda, anti-Jewish propaganda.
Oh, they had propaganda to make the Jews seem like the enemy of the
yes, yes.
Do you recall any of that?
The Jews were a dirty race. Yeah, I remember because the house across from my parents, what they did, they actually painted the Star of David on the doors.
Before the people were evicted?
No, after.
Oh, after.
After they were evicted. They said, okay, now this is a Jewish place, okay?
And so therefore, and no one should buy it or sell it or touch it?
Yes, it was pretty rough if you were an adult living under those conditions. You had to watch what you were saying, and you didn't want to socialize with Jews. That was a no-no.
Were all the Germans that you experienced, were they all military, or were there some civilians there who were involved in administration?
No, as a child, the ones that I came across the most were all either Gestapo or military or SS. Yeah, they were military.
And were they friendly towards the local people?
They were strict.
Strict.
They were pushy.
Aggressive.
Aggressive. Severe. Yes. No. But the Belgian people that socialized with the Germans paid a big price after liberation.
How?
Well, for instance, on this street that I mentioned to you, there were 3 ladies living together that were always very nice to me because I was taking piano lessons. And when I would walk back down to my parents' house, they would always stop me because I was a cute little blondish hair kid to give me an apple, to give me fruit. But where did they get those? They got those favors from the German soldiers or officers because those 3 ladies were sleeping with them. And they would get stockings and they would get food and they would get special privileges because the Germans would bring this to them. But after the war, those same 3 women were taken because my mother took me. All the furniture were brought in the middle of the street, set on fire. Those 3 women had their heads shaven and they were branded with a hot iron with the swastika in their forehead.
As people may have seen in the movie Inglourious Bastards.
I witnessed that as a 5-6-year-old kid. I witnessed that because my mother took me to witness it.
Who did it to them? Who branded them, shaved them, branded them?
The Resistance.
The Belgian resistance.
They were called the maquisards.
And these women were branded as traitors.
Any collaborator, men or women, shaved the head and branded in the forehead with the swastika.
You saw it with your own eyes?
I saw it with my own eyes because my mother took me and she would say, see, look, I want you to look at that.
Again, in keeping with after the war, how did your father sustain the family during the occupation?
Well, during the occupation, he actually sustained it through what was called then the black market. In other words,
he would sell black market goods,
food in excess of what people were allowed to get, rationing.
And what sort of things would he sell via black market?
Well, he would mainly food, like rabbits. People would eat a lot of rabbits. During World War II, people would eat a lot of dogs and cats. Dogs and cats. Okay. because they were hungry. They were hungry. And I remember one time coming back from the countryside with my father on the truck, that the Germans, they had roadblocks. They had roadblocks, and they took my father because for no other reason than they just felt like it, and they were going to shoot 10 or 12 people that were already against the wall, and they dragged me along to witness that. The Germans wanted me to see that. There were already 10, 12 people against the wall that were going to be shot, and they pushed my father against the wall for no other reason that they felt like, well, you know what, we're going to shoot an extra one. And my father, who never went beyond 4th or 5th grade in school, spoke German. So thank God that he spoke German, because as they were ready to aim and shoot, he called the officer in German and told the German officer in German, is this the way that you're going to reward the son of a horse supplier to the German army during World War I? My father supplied a lot of horses to the German army, and this is the way you're going to reward. He thought about that. Why did he have that thought?
He had the presence
that
of mind to
crossed his
think of
mind,
that. Yeah.
And the German officer then told him to raus, get away. And as we were walking away,
were you watching this?
I was watching it. And as we were walking away, they shot the 10, 11 people on the wall there. They just shot them. So you're talking about atrocities. They would shoot people for no reason, just because they felt like it. And they took the right because they had the right from their own system.
They didn't need to arrest people. They could shoot them on sight.
Shoot them on sight if they felt like it. Well, you say shoot on sight. I remember one time I was in the streetcar with my mother, and the streetcar was stopped by the German gendarme, the one that had the silver plate with the chain. I can still see them. They had a silver plate with a chain, and it was silver. It was very noticeable, and they were actually the traffic controllers in Brussels, let's say, the capital, Brussels. They could stop anything they wanted, bus, cars, streetcars. So they stopped the streetcars, and the Germans came on board and said, everybody out, raus, everybody out. So, and then when everybody was out, you had to line up on the sidewalk in one line. And then the German officer would come to you and ask for your papers. He wouldn't ask for me, wouldn't ask papers for me because I was too young. But my mother had to go through her purse, and she had to get out that ID card, you know, with the German stamp. If you did not have it, you were put aside, and then a truck would come and pick you up. That was it. So I remember, and you were not allowed, of course, to have any kind of weapons, not even a pocket knife. That was taboo. And I remember this German officer walking, asking papers from one person to the next, and the German shepherd with you know, was held by just a soldier, but the officer, he is the one with the black boots and the kepi, and you know. So he got to this kid that must have been 19, 20 years old, and they frisked him, and they found a pocket knife. To my amazement, to my shock, he reached for his Luger, a German Luger, and put the German Luger in that kid's forehead and just shot him. Just shot him.
Do you remember seeing it?
I remember seeing that. The reason I remember is I could still see the body going backwards and falling down forwards, and then the blood was actually coming out of his head. And his blood was gradually making a mess on the sidewalk. And then they just left the body there, and everybody was able to get back on the streetcar, and on we went.